I'm here for another English session with a poem that is prescribed in the syllabus of Class 12 CBSE board. The name of the poem is Aunt Jennifer's Tiger. Before that, I need to tell one thing, that I have my laptop only to have the PDF file of that particular poem so that it becomes easy, because I'm not getting a textbook at this point of time. So the name of the poem is Aunt Jennifer's Tigers by Adrienne Rich. The pronunciation is going to be Adrienne, not Adriane, because if you go back to Old English, they used to write sun, S-U-N-N-E. Today we have got the word, or we have received the word as S-U-N. But before that, when it was S-U-N-N-E, still the pronunciation was sun. There is a famous poem, Sun Rising by John Donne. If you take English as your future subject, then definitely you'll read such a famous poet like John Donne. Just this is an information, because when we are talking about classes, then definitely we have to take care of our pronunciation, accent, and other things. It's not about only the explanation of the poem. At the same time, we have to think about different aspects, different perspectives of the language. So it's going to be Adrienne Rich, a lady poet. I'm using the word lady poet because this term lady poet is not at all respectful term. It's rather a derogatory term, because a poet is always a poet, whether he's a male member, whether she's a female member. But ultimately, when you talk like this, that she is a female poet, then definitely you are trying to humiliate the presence of that particular person. Regarding this, I will talk about feminism, because the poem is tinged with the color of feminism. Then definitely I will do it. But before that, we need to know a little bit about the poet. It's an important part to know about the poet, because it's the life, it's the experience, it's the observation of the poet that inspire or that force the poet write this poem. So therefore, you can say like this, please note what I'm saying. A poem is a translation of the expression of the poet. It's a translation of expression. Might be that you are writing a poem about the typical experience of your college life. If a poem gets composed on that particular thing or emotion or that particular instance, ultimately we have to feel the moment anybody reads that poem, the reader will understand that this is an expression, this is rather a translation of that expression that is very, very agonized by somebody else. So therefore, she is a lady poet, and she is widely read and a very rich, extraordinary poet. And being a lady poet, she has gone through such experiences in America. She is an American poet. And she is an activist. And rather, she is called a feminist. Feminist, the term, quote unquote, is very famous. Sometimes we joke with the term that, okay, she is a feminist. But ultimately, we have to reach to the core of feminism, that what actually it means, what it aims to suggest. What's the implication of the term feminism? What's their dream? What's their desire? What do they try to establish in the society? That is what the expectation. And therefore, when a lady poet writes about the pain, the pangs, the agony, the intrepidation, these all things are going on inside a woman. A woman has faced all these things because she is coming from a different family. Think about marriage, because I'm talking about in relation to marriage, because she's Aunt Jennifer and there is an uncle who is suggested in the poem. So therefore, we have to understand that Aunt Jennifer, she is married. And when the poet Adrienne Rich is talking about this Aunt Jennifer, we have to understand that she is trying to explain some of the typical experiences that Aunt Jennifer has undergone in her family after married life. Not after. She's still undergoing. So that's the intention. And perhaps being a lady poet, she understands better. Because there is a proverbial expression that only a wearer knows where the shoe pinches. It's true. If you do not wear the shoe, you will not be able to get it. So the diagnosis is not possible until and unless you feel that same pain. So being a lady, she has undergone such an experience, and therefore she has given her expression through words. And this is the poem, this is a product of that expression. So it's going to be a very authentic and genuine expression because she is a victim of that particular institution that is called marriage. Marriage is an institution. It is an institution. What kind of institution? Some people say that this is a torturous implementation of patriarchal institution. Torturous, because all the time you try to show the impression or the influence of man over women. They are powerless. And a powerful man is showing, rather executing all the power over women. Now when I'm doing like this, when I'm sharing these ideas, some readers, some students, other people can think that I'm also feminist. But we are not going to be into that bias because we have to free, because we are educated at this point of time. So when you are educated, it gives you an observation. It gives you an ability to judge properly. And education gives that facility to all of you, to all of us rather. So being at that point of time, we have to understand whether it's right, whether it's wrong. Is it going to be fine? Is it going to be wrong? Is it merit and demerit of the society? If we want to have a developed, much progressed society, should we have such discrimination between man and woman? In all terms, I'm talking about in all spectrum. Whether it's in terms of work, in terms of power, in terms of equality, in terms of desire, dream, everything. So she is an activist, and therefore she has talked about a lot about the condition, rather the real situation of women before marriage and after marriage. Before that, we have to understand these two situations. Because as a daughter, you are brought up in a different way, because you are very endearing in that particular family where you have spent almost 25 years or 26 years, if you consider in the present situation or present condition. And after 26 or 25 years, you just assume one particular age. And after that, you are going to have a new family, entirely new family with different setup, where the culture is different, language is different, habits are different, everything is different. But it is expected that lady is going to cope up within an instant. That becomes the problem. And it is the expectation that when she will come back from the other family, that's going to be the other family after marriage, definitely. I'm talking about her original family. When she comes back to the family after marriage, it is the expectation of the family, especially the family members of the groom, that she is an expert. She has been taught everything about domestic affairs and she will be handling with pride. That's the expectation. And if there is any lack of that expectation, definitely she has to compensate. And we know compensation in different forms. But before I go into this, because all the things I will tell whenever I will deal those stanzas, because these things are going to be very relevant when I will deal those stanzas. But before that, let me take a little bit introduction about feminism. If you check any dictionary, feminism talks about it's a belief about the equality of women. Again, I'm repeating, if you check any dictionary, especially if you Google it, then Google will give you the definition that it's a belief about the equality of women. But I have a question, strong question against it. Is it a belief? Is it a belief? What is belief? I believe in God. I do not believe in God. So is it a belief? A woman is also staying with you in the family, in the society. So how can it be a belief? Rather, we need to materialize. We need to perform it. Is it a simple document where there is no proof? Where there is no utility? Where there is no implementation? So if it is a belief, we need to have the implementation of that same thing. That no, this is not a belief, this is a material form, that women are also equal in the society just like men are. So that is feminism. But if you dig, if you probe further, then definitely we'll get that feminism is actually a collection of social, political, economical and ideological movements that always aim to define, establish and materialize the expectation of women. Expectation in terms of all. I have already shared these things. But before that, still I'm going to repeat those things. It's the expectation that women can vote, they can elect. Before that, they did not have that right to vote. This is called women's suffrage. That's the first wave of feminism. Feminism is divided into 4 waves. So first wave has focused on that particular area, that particular field, that women should be given the right to vote, to elect a particular government. Before that, you can understand that if these people were totally obliterated from the society, that okay, they have no right to vote, they have no choice to elect, are you going to consider them as human beings? Where their wish, their desire, their thinking are not taken into consideration. Think about it. It's really a painful question. If we consider ourselves that we are the we have education, we have formed an educated society, does it show? Is it a reflection of education? That's the first wave. Second wave talks about women liberation. It's very clear. Today also we feel like this. We have the same problem. A woman is not free. She cannot go outside at night, in the evening. I understand that there are several problems. But the problems actually come from men. So I'm giving a contradiction over here, a firm question to you, that if you feel that men are really powerful, so when a woman goes out in the evening, normally we are not allowing women to go outside because there is a security problem. But men, we have to ask a question that if you are the head of the family, head of the society, then who will provide the security? So if we are really frightened that my lady, my wife, my daughter, she has gone outside and we are intrepidating all the time, we are palpitating all the time because anything can happen. So we have to ask this question. We need to show our face in front of a mirror that is it the real society that we are establishing, we are guiding? That's a question. Next, this is the second wave of feminism. Third wave of feminism talks about that they can go out, they can be free, and they can be individualistic. They are also individuals. They have their own choice. Whatever parents say, they have a voice to go against or agree with. That's the point. And the fourth wave, that's a recent phenomenon, that feminism is really taking a strong hand against molestation, sexual aberrations and other things. So whatever I've spoken, these are the broad areas. Feminism actually should take 2 or 3 full length classes to complete about feminism. But since it's going to be a video class, these much introductions are not important from the perspective of your examination and other things. Just I'm giving you the bullet points. So feminism is a movement that talks about some expectations of the women. Expectations are just like this. I'm giving you the bullet points. Same thing I'm just sharing with you. The first point is going to be women's suffrage. The power to elect. Second, they can be free. They can walk outside. They can work with the same salary. And they have their own individualistic point of view about the world, about their own selves. And whatever they will wear, whatever they will eat, society, patriarchy is not going to decide. Broadly, these are the expectations of these women. So, even though we are talking about feminism, this and that, but ultimately these things are going on in our family. If you check it, if you microscope, definitely you can find out these problems are still prevalent in our society and our homes as well. Think about, just I'm giving one example. In a family, there is one daughter, there is one son. The son is going outside, maybe Bangalore, maybe Chennai, maybe Mumbai for further studies. But when that daughter, she's also expecting, she's also dreaming to go outside, to settle outside for further education and this and that. Family is giving a strong obligation. No. Being a girl, you cannot go outside. You stay with us. Because there is a security problem. You'll be tense all the time. We'll be anxious. Here is the question. So girl cannot go outside where the boy can go outside. The question of equality comes. And being a male member, I'm also representing myself as one of the members of patriarchal society. We have to ask this question. We need to show the mirror to ourselves that is it a real society? If patriarchy is the best opportunity, definitely it's going to be the real society. They should form an utopia. What is an utopia? Utopia is a real world, brave new world, what Huxley said. Shakespeare also mentioned in one of the plays. It's going to be a brave new world where everybody is free, everybody is enjoying equal right. But ultimately it's not happening. So we have to think back. That question should reflect, that question should give a retort to us all the time, that whether we are able to perform, whether we are constitutionalizing those things, or simply we have an institution where nothing is followed. A notice board is there in an institution where it is meant to be unnoticed. If this is the case, then we are the complete failure. So this is the basic outset of feminism. But before I get into the poem, two or three few things I need to share with you, because you need to know a little bit, because it's very important. Whether you are the male member, whether you are the female member, we need to have an equal society where everybody is seen, nobody is prioritized, nobody is given priority, extra priority rather. Everybody should be equal. Everybody should stand in the same platform. Think about caste system and this and that. If it still persists, is it going to be a progressive society? We have to ask a question. Ultimately not. Definitely it's not. So feminism, it's a 20th century movement. It started in France. Ultimately, I need to tell one thing, that France is the storehouse of all movements, birthplace. Rather, I can say that France is the womb of movements, W-O-M-B. Womb, bo, sound remains silent. So France, Charles Fourier, he's an activist. He has coined the term feminism. It's a French term. Feminism, I told that it's a 20th century phenomenon, but it started long back. In the year 1792 by Mary Wollstonecraft. She wrote one essay. The name of the essay is A Vindication of the Right of Woman. She started there. There are some great writers and activists. You should know the names. Kate Millett, Simone de Beauvoir, Ellen Showalter. From India, Kamala Das, Sarojini Naidu, to name a few. So these poets, they have represented the real wretched condition of the women in our society. And ultimately, when you read a poem, any piece of literature, there is always an expectation that reader will be sensitized by it. and they will be empathetic to the condition, and they will empathize. There is a difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is almost, before you sympathize, you have to be empathetic. Empathy means emotionally you have to be connected with that person. I'm giving an example. When a beggar comes, you pay 10 rupees or maybe 100 rupees, maybe 1 rupee, whatever your caliber is. Accordingly, you are paying. So you are giving a kind of contribution to that beggar. So it becomes sympathy. You are giving help, material help. But before that, you have felt the pain inside. You have anticipated the pain of the beggar. So emotionally, the first it is the emotional connection. Emotionally, you get touched with that beggar. That emotional connection that tells you, that prompts you to your mind that you, as a human being, you need to help that person. Therefore, you are paying whatever the money is. That's the difference. So before you be sympathetic, you have to be empathetic. And empathetic, the word is also a Latin word that means feeling into, quote unquote, feeling into. So when that poet, Adrienne Rich, the American poet, when she writes this poem, we have to feel what's the condition. And as a reader, we have to compare. Is it the same condition in America and India? Is it better or is it worse? It's the duty of the reader. It's not that simply you are reading the poem and somehow you are getting ready for the examination. You have mugged up few questions and you have written your answers. It's not like this. Being a sensitive citizen of, I'm not saying that being a sensitive reader, rather I'm telling that being a sensitive citizen, we have to respond just like this. If we are educated, it should show through our reflection. Otherwise, everything is in vain. So with that particular perspective, with that particular angle, we will try to define the poem. And ultimately, we will try to find out what kind of poem it is. How does it establish the real pangs, agonies, or rather worries, anxieties of a woman in a society. Some connections I have shown with her realistic condition or the real situations. Do think about those situations. Try to microscope those points in your individual mind. Ask your mind whether these are right, whether these are wrong, and accordingly we have to approach to the poem. Thank you very much. This is going to be an introduction only for feminism and the poet, and especially the gesture of the poem. In the next class, we will deal with the stanzas. Thank you very much. If you have any question, we will take those questions later on. Thanks.